been a terrific workshop, and I appreciate the chance to speak to all of you this afternoon. So many speakers before me have given very thoughtful talks, and there have been a lot of great discussion about business model, product development, marketing communication, fundraising, and company culture. So all of these are tremendously important to make an awesome startup. But I am not an entrepreneur or an investor. So I figured the best way for me to add something to the discussion was to share a somewhat different perspective. The perspective of an employee working in Google, the best company to work for, as crowned by the Forbes magazine. I want to share with you 3 things Google taught me about entrepreneurship. That's it, just 3 things. So the first thing is about embracing failure. Failure is my biggest enemy. I have been avoiding failure throughout my life. I was born in a middle-class family with 3 siblings. Since young, I know that it will be extremely difficult for my parents to support my tertiary education in a private college or a foreign university. So my best chance to obtain a degree without a debt would be a local university. I studied hard to obtain good grades. I was convinced that a failed subject is a result of lack of hard work. I successfully pursued my tertiary education in Australia University with a scholarship. In my last semester, I recall there was a creative production course that particularly interested me. But in the end, I did not select the course. The reason was that I did not have the confidence to excel in the course, and I was afraid that I would fail and it would affect my overall GPA. I continued to adopt this failure avoidance mode after university. I only took on job or project that I am 101% confident that I can do well. Success is the only option until I joined Google, a company with innovation at its core. Google redefined what failure means to me. It is okay to fail. I learned that failure is the way to be innovative and successful. You have to fail to succeed. If you do not fail, often, you are not trying hard enough. If anything, failure is part of the learning process, and you should try to fail fast by aiming for more audacious ideas. A failure is only a failure if it takes a long time and if you don't learn anything from it. The challenge is to recognize when you are failing, declare it, and then learn what you need to in order to make your next project a success. Failure can be a huge win. Many of Google's successful products are built on yesterday failures. For example, AdSense started as a Gmail experiment which Google tested internally and quickly shut down. It wasn't popular at all. But it did demonstrate that targeting content could work well. Now, it is a $1 billion product. Think about Google driverless car, Google Glass. All of these projects wouldn't have happened if we had not embraced failure. And since I mentioned about these 2 Google X projects, I think it is most appropriate for me to share with you on how Google X employees deal with failure with sight, sound, and motion.
Is there something we could design that would actually generate useful power from the kind of temperature differences we can get from, say, a typical cook fire or from sunlight? One of the interesting examples of this is something called the Thermoacoustic Engine. How does this work? It's kind of magic. This solid-state thing converts heat into mechanical work. And designing it's really hard, but making it once you have the design is pretty simple.
Is it sunny outside today?
It is medium sunny.
Okay, so I think it's good to parallel path and use the blowtorch.
Yeah, oh yeah. Our goal at Google X is to find great big problems that affect ideally billions of people, and to come up with some real breakthrough solution, a solution that's at least 10 times better than like anything that anybody's tried yet. And it's not just like, oh, hey, we'll sort of poke at this. We dedicate real resources with the goal of we are going to go to the moon. If we got a flywheel turning, like on the first go, that would be so incredibly awesome. I think if we could just like hear this thing operating, that would be a big win.
Cool. So let's hit the hardware store then.
process of innovation is messy. It's expensive, it's uncertain. Even with Google X and the resources we have here, we can only afford to pursue some small number of these moonshots at a time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Or like you could get something like this and stuff it.
We have a process that we call rapid evaluation. So the way we do that is we try to fail quickly. I've got a great idea. Maybe I can solve the world's energy problems through thermoacoustic engines. Well, in a day or two, let's do some experiments that give us an idea about how feasible is that. Ultimately, if we can get to a no quickly on an idea, that's almost as good as getting to a yes.
Most people come hardwired, trained by society, that if they don't do the thing they said they were going to do, if it doesn't come out bright and shiny and sparkly, that someone's going to be mad at them. Everyone's almost like that the day they start with us. The question is whether they have the desire within them to unlearn that, to get to a place after 50 or 100 hugs where they'll believe us when we say, hey, it broke, it didn't work, awesome. Did we get a tool out of that? Do we know something we shouldn't do again? Let's try something different.
We took a lot of different parallel paths using different materials and different methods to try to create this thermoacoustic engine. It was great to see everybody's incarnation of this being a little bit different.
Making a stack out of copper wire.
So Brian came up with a design that was kind of like a trombone where it was like two sliding pieces so you could change the length of the resonating chamber. Kate came up with the idea of using the bottle and simple like candle and steel wool. I was working on more like the industrial version where I grabbed a piece of galvanized pipe and some steel wool and a blowtorch. And then Kurt actually was working on the other part of the problem, which is how do we generate that heat? So if we're not using a fire, if we're not using a stove, can we use solar to try to collect up some of that power? We were looking for it to just hum. We wanted it to get some sort of audible feedback that this thing was actually oscillating. So we're looking for that resonant frequency, almost like blowing over the top of a bottle.
Right about here against your wall. Yeah. And as of right now, well, we're not exactly seeing tremendous, overwhelming success with our thermoacoustic engines.
Yeah, it should be oscillating.
Which indicates that maybe making these things is a little bit harder than we thought. And that's actually like really good to know. So it means that maybe we need to go back and I need to actually like go back to that physics and check my equations. It may mean that, well, these are just difficult things to make, and as a result, they may not be the right tool to be this super inexpensive, low power, distributed power generation thing.
Think about what we all wish scientists would do. They don't run experiments where they insist that the outcome be positive. They run experiments whose purpose is to create knowledge and learning, because each piece of learning creates acceleration.
I like this idea of creating artifacts of the future. So if you think about reverse archaeology, right? Some of the stuff that we're creating here is this physical token of something that may be, commonplace in the future. Sometimes what you think it's going to be is not always what it turns out to be. There's a lot of happy coincidence there and serendipity where we're creating something brand new and we have no idea where it's going to take us.
I believe an inevitable part of the startup experience is tasting failure. Almost all successful entrepreneurs have failed at one point or another. Embrace failure, fail fast, fail well. The second thing is about thinking big. There is a popular quote that I often hear every now and then. Aim for the moon. If you miss, you will land amongst the stars. To be honest, the quote did not resonate very well with me until I joined Google. Until I truly understood from Larry Page what moonshot thinking is all about. Larry Page lives by the gospel of 10x. Most companies would be happy to improve a product by 10%, not the CEO and co-founder of Google. The way Larry sees it is a 10% improvement means that you are basically doing the same thing as everybody else. You probably won't fail spectacularly, but you are guaranteed not to succeed wildly. Moonshot thinking actually pays off. We see this with self-driving cars, translating the web into 64 languages, and many other such projects. Some of you may ask, can moonshot thinking work outside of Google? I would say yes. If the breakthrough that you are aiming at, rooted on technical insights and is focused on the users. What do I mean by technical insights? A technical insight amounts to a new way of applying technology or design that either drives down the cost or increases the functions and usability of a product by a significant factor. Some examples. AdWords. Performing real-time auctions to match users with the right ads, or none at all, billion of times a day. Gmail. Provided over 250 times the storage offered previously. AdSense. Dynamically determine the meaning of the page to serve the relevant ads. When you base projects on the technical insights, you can create features and products that are different from the competition and drive technology forward in interesting ways. At the same time, for any moonshot thinking to work, it needs to start with the understanding of what the user is trying to accomplish. Thinking big would be relevant only with a deep understanding of the user's goal. Then, you would be able to create solutions to problems that users didn't even know they had. And as a result, you will stay ahead in innovation. The Google search engine is a good example of this. The moonshot thinking of downloading the web and keeping the links relevant to users such as are successful because Larry Page and Sergey Brin are trying to solve the user's goal of accessing information, accessing knowledge in a fast and simple manner. It didn't matter when everyone said that they were going to fail, as there were already 5 search engines in the market. What mattered was that Google wanted to build something that is one of a kind. After all, moonshot thinking is not about beating the competition, but rethinking problems entirely. And the video that I would like to show you now encapsulates very well what thinking big is all about.
The actual moonshot is wonderful, inspirational, poetic, beautiful, involved great technical challenges, genuine heroism. It brought the world together. But think about the Polynesian islander on the dugout canoe, deciding one day they were going to go that way. No one had ever been that way before. No one even knew if there was anything that way before. It was amazing, and it changed the world.
People can set their minds to magical, seemingly impossible ideas, and then through science and technology, bring them to reality. And that then sets other people on fire, that other things that look impossible might be accomplishable.
Galileo is such a hero, in thinking big, and what he represents to me is both curiosity and wonder that humanity had, that he had, that pushed him and drove himself to invent and work on the first telescopes that allowed us to see the moon, and here we are.
These aviation pioneers were figuring it out as they went. No one really knew how to build an airplane, right? No one knew how to fly an airplane. It was amazing and crazy and wonderful, and they wanted to explore.
Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said, because it is there.
There's so many challenges in the world, and you can feel daunted by that, and sort of oppressed by that, or you kind of say, how might we think differently about this?
Everyone else in the world is working on that next 10%. If you can be the one that delivers that 10 times improvement, you have a chance to really change things.
If you want cars to run at 50 miles per gallon, fine, you can retool your car a little bit. But if I tell you it has to run on a gallon of gas for 500 miles, you have to start over.
You need a lot of courage in this work, and you need a lot of persistence. One of the things that's really critical is not only having the courage to keep trying every day or thinking big, even if you don't really 100% believe it's possible, like you might think this might be possible, have the courage to try. That's how the greatest things have happened.
You don't spend your time being bothered that you can't teleport from here to Japan, because there's a part of you that thinks it's impossible. Moonshot thinking is choosing to be bothered by that.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Humanity's progress has been a series of amazing, audacious things, from the very small and personal up to the great, big, and grand. And we are a species of moonshots. And to me, that's like the really amazing, poetic, and inspirational thing.
I think our ambitions are a glass ceiling on what we can accomplish.
When you find your passion, you're unstoppable. You can make amazing things happen. It's been true through all of history.
I believe in the human spirit, and I believe that there are always going to be crazy people who will get out of bed one morning and say, you know what? I think I can build a space elevator, and let's go and do it. But I think that if we become afraid to take these great big risks, we stop inspiring people. We stop achieving things. And the biggest nightmare scenario is that we won't have what it takes to solve the really big challenges.
When Kennedy said that we would put a man on the moon, it's about the fact that he said, we don't know how to do this yet, and we're gonna do it anyway. And that sends chills up everybody's spine. Because if that happens, what couldn't we do?
If you only aim for your company or yourself to make 10% progress, you will likely to make only 10% progress. There's little chance that you would be 10 times bigger than your goal. Think big, then think bigger, like 10 times bigger. The third thing that I learned from Google about entrepreneurship is about hiring and retaining talent. During a visit to the NASA Space Center in 1962, President Kennedy noticed a janitor carrying a broom. He interrupted his tour, walked over to the man and said, "Hi, I'm Jack Kennedy. What are you doing?" The janitor responded, "I am helping put a man on the moon, Mr. President." I absolutely love this story. Obviously, the janitor understood the importance of his contribution. He truly felt he was a valuable part of something bigger than himself, and his attitude created a sense of feeling of confidence in his mission. He wasn't merely a janitor. He was a member of the 1962 NASA space team. While I can't verify whether the janitor story is true or not, I can testify that working in Google does make me feel like I'm part of Google missions to change the world. I'm not just selling advertising solutions or chasing sales targets. I am helping to fund Google so that it can organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So, what's the point that I'm trying to make? I guess the fundamental principle of attracting great talent is to have a mission that matters and live by it. First, the mission statement is not just a sentence written by a consultant for the purpose of pleasing shareholders, decorating your workplace, or just for the sake of putting in your business plan. It should be the heart of the work you do every day, the compass for decision making, and the reason why people work in your company. Second, great communication efforts need to be put forth to ensure all your current and future employees feel connected to the mission and empowered to help achieve it, regardless of how large or visible their contribution would be. From my own experience, it is hard to find any Googlers or even non-Googlers who are not moved by the mission that Google has demonstrated in these two videos.
Are you ready for your big party today? Huh?
Not long ago, I planted a crop of potatoes. Then suddenly they started dying one after the other. Checked out the books and they didn't tell me much. So I went and I did the search. Potato diseases. One of the websites told me that ants could be the problem. It said sprinkle wood ash over the plants. Then after a few days, the ants disappeared. I got excited about the internet. I have this friend, he really would like to expand his business. So we went with him to the cyber cafe and we checked out several sites. When I met him next, he was going to put a windmill at a local school. I felt proud because something that wasn't there before was suddenly there. I realized that not everybody can be able to access what I was able to access. I thought that I need to have an internet that my grandmother can use. And so I thought about a notice board, a simple wooden notice board. When I get information on my phone, I'm able to post the information on the notice board. So it's basically like a computer. I use the internet to help people. I think I'm searching for a better life for me and my neighbors. So many people have access to information, but there's no follow-up to that. I think a follow-up to that is our knowledge. When people have the knowledge, they can find solutions without having to be helped out. Information is powerful, but it is how we use it that will define us.
Did you know that Larry Page reviews every single Google hire? He keeps his finger on Google Pulse by insisting on signing off on every new hire. So far, he has vetted well over 40,000 people. The act of Larry Page demonstrates that hiring is the heart and soul of a company. If you truly believe that great people make a great company, which in turn attracts more great people to join you, then you would make finding the best people a big priority, and you would probably be reviewing every job offer like how Larry Page does. Here are 9 hiring do's and don'ts that I learned from Google. Number 1, do hire people who are smarter and more knowledgeable than you. Don't hire people don't hire people you can't learn from or be challenged by. Number 2, do hire people who will add value to the product and your culture. Don't hire people who won't contribute well to both. Number 3, do hire people who will get things done. Don't hire people who just think about problems. Number 4, do hire people who are enthusiastic, self-motivated and passionate. Don't hire people who just want a job. Number 5, do hire people who inspire and work well with others. Don't hire people who prefers to work alone. Number 6, do hire people who will grow with your team and with the company. Don't hire people with narrow skill sets or interests. Number 7, do hire people who are well-rounded with unique interests and talents. Don't hire people who only live to work. Number 8, do hire people who are ethical and who communicate openly. Don't hire people who are political and manipulative. Number 9, and the last one, do hire only when you have found a great candidate. Don't settle for anything less. Okay, so now, how about retaining talent? What about the most valuable tips that I learned from Google? Or better put, what would I miss most if I were to leave Google and work for another company? Yes, I will miss the free food, the funky office, the games, the casual dress code, and the freedom at work. But truth to be told, I was lucky enough to enjoy all these great benefits in my previous jobs. What is truly unique about Google that is magical and meaningful to me as an employee is the culture of transparency. Google shares everything they can with their employees. We have a weekly meeting called TGIF, hosted by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. In the first 30 minutes, we review news and product launches from the past week, demo upcoming products, and celebrate wins. By the second 30 minutes, is the part that matters most, Q&A. Everything is up for question and debate, from the trivial, can we produce t-shirt sizes for women, to the heavyweight, is Google going in the right direction? The true beauty is, every Googler, regardless who they are, what position they are at, and which office they are from, has an equal chance to ask questions and have their question answered. That's not all. Google shares the board letter with all 40,000 full-time employees. I'm not aware of any other company of Google scale that does that. Why don't most companies do this? I believe it's fear of leaks. You have to trust people to do this, and people appreciate it when you trust them. The fact is, despite this remarkably broad dissemination of information within the organization, Google has remarkably few serious leaks. The first fact causes the second. A trusted workforce is a loyal workforce. Wouldn't it be awesome if all of you can set up companies that are built upon trust and transparency as a foundation? With that, thanks for listening to me. I have a last message to share with you. That's like, okay, dream on.
Okay.
Okay, bonjour, enchanté.
Okay, give that a try. Okay, your Bixby Spartans.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Okay, what's up?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, Google. Do dogs dream?
Dogs dream like humans and about similar things.
I'm truly aware that my sharing session is shorter than the 1 hour time slot given. I did this on purpose. There's a very famous philosophy in Google that I resonate very well with. In God we trust, all others bring data. I was curious why the video in the famous TED Talk always seems to be in the area of 10 to 18 minutes. I dig further and I found out from research and tons of data that the TED organizers came to conclusion 18 minutes work best. It is long enough to be serious and short enough to hold your attention. That's roughly the length of my presentations, minus all the videos. So I sincerely hope that despite it is a short presentation, I managed to give you a glimpse into Google culture and hopefully will help you in your startup journey. I contemplated to have the Q&A session because I'm actually not very good at articulating my thought impromptu. But I don't want you to feel cheated that I shortchanged you for just having a 30-minute session. So feel free to ask me any question, but please forgive me if I did not manage to answer your question very well on the stage, like here. I can follow up with an email response if you are not happy with the answer. So now I open the for you guys to actually to ask any questions that you have. Okay. Okay.
Can you describe what is the hiring process for Google?
Okay, I actually have that prepared, and it's actually available online as well. So basically, I think it actually ranges. For me personally, I apply Google through the online site. So when Google actually posts up vacancy, I look at the job description. It's something that I believe I can do well. Then I just submit my resume online. So within a week, I get a call and ask me whether I would like to go to the office for interview. But most of my colleagues in the Malaysia office, they are referred by someone that is working in Google. So after which, personally, I went through 5 interviews, 2 phone interviews and 3 in person before I offered a job. Does it answer your question? Or if you are looking at like how we select talents, then you let me know. I'm happy to share.
So we keep reading about Google that it's a very heavy metric organization in terms of even human or people practices are actually driven by metrics. Yes. So can you share with me at least one process, especially in recruitment, how would you actually drive metrics into the people operations department?
I think Google believes in hiring. The hiring decision should be made by a committee and not one hiring manager. I think this is something very different from other companies, where normally maybe the boss or the person that you report to eventually decide whether you are the right candidate. But in Google, I think the minimum number of people who interview a new hire will be like 3 to 5. So after you conducted the interview, you actually need to put in your feedback. Then the hiring committee will look at all the feedback and decide whether this person is suited for the company. So we actually have 4 criteria where we look at like hiring new talents. So leadership, we want to see whether the talent has demonstrated leadership ability in school or at work. Role-related knowledge, this is especially true for engineers. You actually need to know how to code. And the third thing is googliness. If you have like watched the movie Internship, googliness shouldn't be something that that you are not familiar with. But if you ask me, how do we define googliness? It's something that I would say is a very gray area. So generally, we want to see whether that person is actually very helpful and is a team player, be able to see things in a positive manner. All this actually add to whether you are someone who is googly or not. I think the last one, the criteria is how you think. I think, or you, in a different word, is cognitive ability. During the interview, at least for myself, the interviewer actually asked me a lot of questions, situational question. So I might not have the right answer, but what they actually really try to find out is how you actually look at the challenge and what's your thought process. So how you come about. If you tell me, let's say if I ask you, how many searches a day in Google Malaysia? So I do not have the answer, but if I can actually tell them that how I came about finding the answer or sharing the answer that I thought would be true, then that really matters. It's not whether the answer is correct or not. Yeah, that's the 4 criteria that we generally look at. So just recap: leadership, role-related knowledge, how you think, and googliness. Any other question? Okay, so.
Hi, I'm Sun here. Just wanted to know, like, is Google looking for technical person in Malaysia, or is there any, like programmer, engineer position available here?
Unfortunately, the Malaysia office is mainly the sales and marketing and PR. So we actually do not have any position for engineers or like programmers. But we are hiring. If you want to actually explore working in Google in the sales and marketing function, then you can talk to me later. I can give you my name card. Then I can refer you to to the HR team. Yeah. If no more questions, then thank you very much for paying attention to me. Thanks.